Everyone knows the story of the grasshopper and the hard-working ant. But what people don't know is the truth behind this story that actually happened in a land far, far away. The true story of the grasshopper and the ant is that he was really a handsome prince. Of course I mean the lazy grasshopper, they never do any work, and his faithful servant Antony. The prince was a bit of a womanizer, even by royalty standards, and made the mistake of sleeping with the wicked witch's niece and never called her back. To punish him, the witch turned the prince into a grasshopper, because, let's be honest, a frog is just so cliché. You may be wondering why Anthony became an ant, but those are the sort of details that we just don't have time for. The grasshopper prince, I'm not sure if I mentioned his name was Peter, was of course very upset about being a grasshopper. But rather than doing soul-searching or anything about it, he just ran around in the woods, jumping around in the leaves, while Anthony was busy trying to find a way to undo the curse and getting things ready for the winter, of course. Meanwhile, we can take a look at another character, Snow White. A bit of a leap, but it is connected, trust me. Princess Snow White looked nothing like they described in her story. She was very clumsy, suffered from acne, and she wasn't white at all. In fact, she was brown. Okay, we won't make it racist. Latina. Snow White was a nickname given to her for her light complexion, but considering her real name was Gertrudis, she was quite happy to let it stick. Back to the story, Snow White was not an attractive girl, to put it mildly, and like other girls in such a desperate state, turned to wildlife for what she needed, and realized that she was only going to be able to get herself a prince by kissing some frogs. This is where the two parts of our story cross. The lazy grasshopper prince was jumping through the leaves, easily amused as he is, and saw Princess Snow White by the pond trying to pounce on any unwitting frog that sat still for too long. Peter was curious and watched as the ugly princess caught a frog, and then brought him to her mouth for a kiss. Now, Peter had of course heard the stories, but did not realize that the frog had to be French kissed. He bounced over, landing on her shoulder, to ask her why she was sticking her tongue in that poor defenseless frog's mouth. Snow White screamed, startled by a talking grasshopper suddenly appearing. Talking frogs would be perfectly reasonable, but who expects a bug to start chatting to you?
You, what are you? What do you want?
Well, I'm a grasshopper at the moment, but I'm really a very handsome prince.
Snow White looked very excited and leaped at the opportunity to get herself a prince to show all those girls that tease her.
Well, I'm a princess. Do you have a girlfriend?
Peter looks at this poor girl, sensing where she was going with this, and he was getting a little scared. Maybe I should have noted this earlier, but part of the witch's curse was that a kiss from a princess would restore him, as you'd expect, but he also would be committed to her forever. Now, the prince had always been careful about using protection for his womanizing to avoid getting himself in this situation, and was particularly unhappy about spending the rest of his life with Snow White, because she was not exactly pretty.
Snow White, I think ours would not work anyway. It's not you, it's me, you know?
He managed to wiggle free and ran away. Like in the story we know, Peter did not learn any lesson at all. He decided he would rather to be an insect than stop being a bachelor. So he knocked on Anthony's door and asked him to stay with him, and they lived that way for the rest of their lives. As for our poor princess, Snow White chased Peter for a while, but gave up and decided to keep trying her luck around the ponds. One of the frogs she kissed was magic and cleared up her skin, but also was poisonous, and she fell unconscious. She was found by a divorced woodsman, who took her home and woke her up. They ended up getting married as he needed someone to cook for him in his hut. They lived happily ever after. Nah, I'm just kidding. She hated making sandwiches for him and changing their diapers. Does it sound familiar to you? The end.